Welcome everybody to Mean Green Game Day season number 3 as college football is back, and it is back in Denton. I'm Kyle Yeomans alongside our great group of analysts this season. A couple returners, a new home crew member. She was on the road crew last year. Drake Lawson, sports director at NTTV, Josh Conrad, and Ashley Pickle. Welcome all three of you guys. I'm excited for football season. But first off, I want to give you guys a chance to open things up. What are you most excited about during this 2017 North Texas football year?
Oh, most excited to see the second year of New Denton behind Seth Luttrell, all of his players, a fresh recruiting class, a full recruiting class. I mean, it'll be really exciting to see what we got in the second year.
Well, last year was kind of like the prologue to a book, and now it's kind of like we're in the actual real part of the book. We get to see how the team looks, how the coaches do. I mean, the biggest thing for a new coach is that year 1 to year 2. That's when you see the most growth. So I just think to see this team in year 2, now they have the system, they're used to the coaches, that's the most exciting thing for me.
And I couldn't agree more with Josh when he says the difference between year 1 and year 2 is the biggest growth, because they did have a successful season last year. So we'll see if that was just a hoax, or we'll see if it is here to stay like New Denton.
You look at North Texas, 5-8 last year, a bowl game whenever really nobody expected it. It kind of came out of nowhere, coming off of a 1-11 season. You have a new coach, a new quarterback in Mason Fine, who actually ended up getting hurt later in the year against Western Kentucky. We'll talk about him in just a little bit as he starts again this year. But overall, this is a new team and a new feel still around this entire program. It's New Denton. The hashtag stays the same from year 1 to year 2. But after last year, let's look at really the bowl game. Was it a success? Yes, it was a loss to Army, and yes, it was an overtime game where North Texas really had to come back on. But was this bowl season a success for North Texas? And is it really going to be able to propel this program into a potential new era of Mean Green football?
I think it's a success in the fact that we made a bowl game at all. I mean, with a losing record, we got lucky in the fact that we made it. I mean, we had a great APR score that's, definitely showing to our academic talents that we have here at North Texas. But, as far as the game, it was a success that we stayed in the game. We lost. I don't know if you can ever label a loss success necessarily, but, it was a success that we were even there and that we had a great crowd that showed up at the Heart of Dallas Bowl in Dallas. So, it's a success that we even made it because, with North Texas on the up and coming with the first year of Seth Luttrell to make a bowl game, that's really impressive.
I just think having North Texas on TV for 3 hours on ESPN is a success. You have those cool helmets, you have the fans, you have the We Want Bama sign, you have all that stuff, the exposure. It's great for North Texas. You get to run an ad on national TV. It's just awesome. I think this team needs to learn from what happened in the bowl game. We couldn't stop the run. That's something we got to work on this year, but for me, it's easily a success.
Just for the record, We Want Bama, totally a Josh Conrad original, just so we put that out there. But no, I couldn't agree more. Coming in from, like you said, 1-9 season, just absolutely terrible. Head coaching was a complete disaster. We go on into being that 5-7 team. Yes, we get in on academics, but the thing about it was not only was getting there a success, but the bowl game was. We made it to overtime against a very good Army team. We were, a bunch of fans showed up. But the other thing that I really want to point out is that whole game, we were going in between 2 quarterbacks. Mason Fine was out there for a little bit. Alec Morris was back there. What are those guys supposed to do when you've got 2 quarterbacks who's one like 5'11", 6 foot at max, and then the other one's a 6'5" stocky guy who doesn't run out of the pocket? They're playing 2 totally different games, and we still went to overtime with them.
And not to mention, Jeffrey Wilson was sick that whole game. Yeah. He was throwing up his guts
Sports
on the
Center,
field.
not top 10.
Yeah, we had that playing, so the fact that our best player, our star running back, was like half of himself at the game was another reason why we couldn't run on them.
Not to mention, you had some other players stepping up in that ball game without Mason Fine, without, like you said, a healthy Jeffrey Wilson. You had guys like Turner Smiley, Rico Bussey, who both really stepped up in the receiving game, and Andy Flushy as well, coming in the defense, had a monster game for the Mean Green. But you turn over, and now that we do have Mason Fine backs, today will be his first start and his first live action in 294 days. That's how long it's been since Mason Fine's seen game action. But overall, what do you see from Mason Fine? Is he the answer for this North Texas team? Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine listed him actually as the number 6 most important player in the entire state of Texas. Is he the answer for North Texas?
I hope so. We really don't have anybody else we can throw out there. You don't have that safety net of Alec Morris to throw in now. Now, yeah, you have Quinn Shanbor, but Quinn Shanbor is less experienced than Mason Fine, so he's more of an unknown than him. There's no safety net now. It's pretty much, all right, Mason, here you go. This is your job, which might help him more because he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. There's no worry of, oh, man, I just threw an interception. The coaches are going to take me out. There's no, oh man, I got to go back to the sideline. It's like, I can just be me. I can go out there and play. I think he can be the answer. The problem for me is, can he stay healthy a whole year? You know, the guy, he's undersized. That's why he's here. That's why he didn't go to bigger schools. Can he stay healthy for an entire 12 games against really good competition?
See, and I'm probably going to kind of counteract Josh here, but I am still very weary about Fine. Is he a great quarterback? Yes, I do believe so. But my theory on him last year was he came in not expecting really to play at all. We have this fifth-year senior from Alabama. He was made up to be this big guy that he turned into not being. And, you know, he comes in because Alec Morris didn't get the job done. So Fine comes in on this adrenaline rush. People start reacting to him in a positive way. They're giving him positive feedback. You know, we've got this small quarterback. He's better than this, you know, ginormous Alabama recruit that we got. Now he knows he's going to be the starter. He's feeling that pressure. So I think it comes down to now, is it going to be he was great off of adrenaline and off of the positivity, or if he messes up once, he's not going to get that positive reinforcement because he is supposed to be the guy. So we'll find out if he's a player.
I think I gave him the most positive reinforcement possible on this show last year.
I mean, in second year of experience, obviously you would hope that he's going to grow, that he's going to continue to get better. I mean, he's gotten bigger. I mean, when you're looking at him in practice, I mean, he's starting to understand the offense a little more. I mean, it's a first year for not only him, but for everyone who is in Graham Harrell and Seth Luttrell's offense. So, I mean, there's definitely going to be a growth period, and I think he did great in the first year with not knowing a lot. That just shows his talent-wise. I mean, the guy's got unbelievable talent, but I agree with Pickle in the fact that, can he stay healthy? Can he last an entire year? That's the questions we don't know because he couldn't do it his freshman year.
With more expectation, there's going to be more criticism.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of expectation around Mason Fine, around Seth Luttrell as well. And then you look at the team as a whole. There are a lot of people that are expecting bowl season again. Last year, there was nobody expecting that. They were saying 4-8, 5-7. Yes, we did go 5-7, got into the bowl game, like Drake said, because of APR. But overall, this is a year where North Texas fans have kind of circled. There's an experience around Mason Fine, even though he's still an underclassman. There are guys in the receiving core like Turner Smiley and like a Kelvin Smith that are going to make some moves. And then on defense as well, I want to get your opinion really quickly. What is the main area of need in 2017 for this North Texas squad, either on offense or defense?
I'm going to jump out first. I'm just going to say offensive line, because
no
if we're talking about Mason Fine, he is the quarterback. Like you said, if he goes down, I don't know what our plan is. We've got to protect him. And the whole offense, whether it be Jeffrey Wilson, whether it be Mason Fine, running or passing the ball, we've got to have a strong offensive line.
I'm going to switch over from offensive line to defensive line. We gave up 5.3 yards per carry last year. That's 2 plays you have a first down running the ball. We have to step up defensively. Our secondary was really strong last year. That defensive line can come in and hold them down. We can have some success on defense.
I'm going to go with Drake. Offensive line, no doubt. With that small of a quarterback who couldn't stay healthy for a whole year, we might not have much of a fallback plan. We have to have them, or else it's just going to get ugly.
It will definitely. So I think I'm going to agree with Josh, though. We'll split it 50-50. The defensive line, especially today against James White, Texas A&M transfer playing running back for Lamar, they're going to be mighty crucial.
No one argues. It's all one of the trenches. Battle of the trenches is how you win football.
That's true. At least we agree on that across the board. But going on later in the show, we'll make sure and talk about some of the game leading up in our kickoff countdown, and we'll get a chance to see what North Texas fans outside of the football stadium of Apogee on campus think about their football team. Josh got a chance to catch up with him. That's all coming up later here on Mean Green Game Day.
Again, Josh?
What? It's game day.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume, no one abused you.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day as we lead you up to Lamar and North Texas over at Apogee Stadium. We aren't in our usual spot. We're actually in Studio A in the North Texas Television Studios in the RTVF building on campus. That's because North Texas Television is carrying the game, so that'll be a lot of fun. Be sure to watch out for that. But with the new year comes a lot of changes around the nation in college football. You look at potentially coaches switching, you have transfers going everywhere. I want to focus in on this coaching carousel because there were quite a few, especially in the South, quite a few coaching changes. First off, I want to get your thoughts on what was the biggest move in terms of coaching this summer, and then what do you expect from those coaches? We'll power rank them in just a minute.
For me, I mean, the biggest move was the most surprising move because of the time it happened. It happened way after college football season was over, and Bob Stoops leaving Oklahoma. I mean, all of us were like, wait, college football news, like when it popped up on our ESPN alerts. And we went on there and we all thought, oh, Bob got in trouble for illegal recruiting. No, I mean, it was the fact that he really wanted to step down and trusted Lincoln Riley to take over the program. I mean, that was just shocking to me. I mean, I'm really want to see what OU has to offer.
There were a lot of question marks around that program. Not really sure what Lincoln Riley is going to be able to do in year one, but it's going to definitely be interesting.
Well, I think to go off that, everyone still thinks Oklahoma is going to be the same. I think people are underrating how good Bob Stoops was there. The success, I mean, 18 years he was there to have that level of success. He never went back-to-back years without winning a Big 12 title. I mean, that's insane to do. And the Big 12, you think all the good coaches, all the good players from there. I mean, I just think losing him, Lincoln Riley, I mean, this guy's 34. He's never been a head coach. I think that's going to be tough for OU. But the biggest move was Tom Herman going to Austin. I mean,
wow, big surprise that
okay,
you're going with
right,
Tom Herman there.
Texas will be what Alabama is now in 3 years.
Oh.
That's a bold move, Cotton.
Better.
That's a bold move.
Okay, all right, Tuscaloosa. Who wants to go to Tuscaloosa? Austin, Texas. Everybody wants to go to Austin, Texas. Here's what they're doing.
Maybe you want to go to Austin, Texas.
you look at their social media, what they're doing. They're just doing it right. You didn't realize before Tom Herman how little Texas had on social media. Just they're doing the recruiting, they're going out. I mean, they're making it look like Texas is the best place to go play college football.
But to be fair, Josh, I mean, Texas has had great recruiting classes for the past year.
Not like this, though.
That's true.
They're second right now in 2018.
I'll fit in with Josh on this one, and it's not just because we both grew up being Texas fans, I promise.
I think it might be.
A little bit, maybe.
I think it is.
What happens, what Texas needs more than anything right now, what they hoped that Charlie Strong would be, was a complete turnaround in the program. And that's what Todd Herman did. Tom Herman. I said Todd because Kyle put it in our rundown that way. So we'll
That's on me.
throw that out. Regardless, Tom Herman, what he did at Houston was take a program and completely flip it, do a complete 360, and that's what Texas needs. So with the recruiting class going into Austin, like Josh says, people want to go to Austin. When Texas football is in its full, people want to go there.
Now,
So
I
he
want
can
to
turn it
play a
around.
little bit of devil's advocate here. You talk about how Tom Herman turns around a Houston program. Do you know the previous head coaches that were at Houston before Tom Herman?
But
one of
very
which
good
was
point.
Art Briles. Of course, he's now not in the same light that he once was. The other one being Kevin Sumlin, now head coach at A&M.
But let's also remember how great Herman was.
That's
Ohio
true.
State marched to the championship in the first ever college football playoff.
Very true.
He is the guy, I mean, with a third-string quarterback, with Cardale Jones, he led that Ohio State team with his offensive mind to get them to win that championship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, Herman's a great coach. I'm not taking that away. But the fact that you guys, it's showing that you're Texas fans, that you're just going to gloss over the fact that OU's coaching change is not the biggest storyline, because it is. Bob Stoops, like you said, all the stats, 18 years, the guy was a legend, and he just walks away from the game.
Maybe
I
Bob
find that
Stoops-
as unbelievable.
Maybe he walked away because Tom Herman walked
Oh,
away. Maybe
that's
that's
what
what
We're going to flip it around
river
here.
rivalry
We'll flip it
is
around here. I still don't think
real.
he's
We're
Alabama,
getting a
but-
little carried away
Wow.
here, but I also do want to add no love for Lane Kiffin going to Florida Atlantic.
no.
That's a big move.
That's the
Whether
best
you
story
think it or
of the
not,
year.
that's a big move because it could potentially offset a little bit of the balance in terms of the Power 5 and middle 5 schools.
And I got so tied in with the Texas talk that that was going to be my point originally. So we'll go back to that. Lane Kiffin leaving was huge. Not only did he leave close to like how we said how Bob Stoops left way after college football season, the season was over. Lane Kiffin left right in the middle of it before Alabama even went to play in the championship. So that was one, a huge move because of that. But two, my thing about Lane Kiffin going down to Florida Atlantic is I am interested to see how he does for the sole reason that those players that he's going to be working with at FAU are not Bama players.
No.
So he's got to really dial it back and know, okay, here are my guys' strengths, and this is what we're going to work to, not trying to throw as much as he can on them because they're not Bama
They're
at
not
all.
Bama players. They're not Oakland Raider players. They're not USC players. The guy has the weirdest career ever. He started at the very, very top in the NFL, and now he's at FAU. But has he ever been a good head coach?
He's never been successful.
He's never been successful.
Yep.
So that's why it's not really big news to me because Lane Kiffin has never proven to be a good head coach. If he goes out there and FAU plays tremendous, I'm going to eat my words. But Lane Kiffin has never been good. He's always been a great coordinator, argues with Nick Saban, but got stuff done with Bama and wherever he's gone. But he's never been a good head coach.
What do you think about in terms of the recruiting and the impact that he's had immediately at FAU, bringing in these recruits? He now has John Franklin, a Last Chance U quarterback from season 1. For those of you who have watched that Netflix series, he's going to play for Florida Atlantic. They actually, don't they have the quarterback from this year's
Josh,
Last Chance
this is
U?
your guy.
I think this is
Boy,
Josh's
you
thing.
take him. Take
You
him.
know who's the biggest fan of Lane Kiffin being hired at FAU?
Who?
NCAA investigators who now they're going to get so many paychecks going down to Florida Atlantic. You got Kendall Briles, you got some Art Briles.
Yep.
I mean, these guys are just like, man, I mean, we might as well just stay in Florida Atlantic. We really don't need to go anywhere else. I mean, it's interesting. He's going to do a great job. Alabama wasn't the same without him in that championship game offensively, just with some of their strategies. I mean, he's a great offensive mind, but I mean, NCAA investigators, just stay down there.
Calling it Last Strike U, playing off of the Last Chance U. So with these new head coaches and the changes here in the South, you also have Matt Rule at Baylor. We didn't mention him. And then also Major Applewhite at Houston as well. With those guys coming in and being very new with their program and in these big conferences, especially the Big 12, what do you expect out of some of these more advanced and tenured head coaches like a Gary Patterson, a Kevin Sumlin, and it's weird for me to say even a Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech. He's now considered a tenured head coach in the Big 12. What do you think for these veteran guys? Is this going to be a challenge, or is it going to be really an advantage having some newer coaches to coach against in their conference?
I think it's a challenge. I mean, for Sumlin, too. I mean, he was on the hot seat last year. A&M's got to win.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned him. Kingsbury's another example of you got to win because his defense has been garbage since he's really showed up to Texas Tech. I mean, the offense can be as good as they want.
It's been bad.
When the defense lets them score 40 points a game, you're not going to win. So, I mean, it's honestly, those two guys, I know you mentioned them as far as like Texas coaches, they're on the hot seat. And having these young coaches come in like Herman, Rule, they're going to put these guys on the hot seat. Patterson, I think, is okay. They built a statue of him already at TCU. But the other two, I mean, they've really got to win this year or they'll be out.
Yeah.
To talk about Patterson, I think this is maybe great for him because Baylor's not what Baylor was 2 years ago. And Texas, I mean, TCU's beaten Texas by 14 touchdowns the past 3 seasons, so they have the edge over them. I mean, I think Gary Patterson and TCU, no one's really expecting anything out of them this year. Watch out for TCU this year.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've been to TCU games. I can tell you, the fans, the football team, they love that coach. That is Gary Patterson. So I, again, don't think he has anything to worry about. I'm going to agree with them on this one. And I couldn't agree more with Kevin Sumlin and Kingsbury. Man, they are on the hot seat. In particular, Kevin Sumlin. If he does not win 10 games at A&M this year, he is out. He probably should have been out last year. And they're coming in with a brand new quarterback again.
Right.
A&M's got a lot of rebuilding to do, and I think that Sumlin is definitely going to be feeling it this year. So, but completely retrospective, it could go where. I mean, some of these guys they're experienced, but not as a head coach. Like we said, kind of a Lane Kiffin thing. How is Major Applewhite gonna handle that? He's been an offensive coordinator for so long, And then, I mean, it's the same thing with Matt Rule. He's able to turn around programs. He did that at Tulsa, but Baylor's a whole different monster. On top of the fact that their recruiting is not going to be near as good as what it could have been, because of everything that has happened. So it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. I think it's really going to depend on how the season plays out.
Yeah, Baylor kind of trying to make their way back from the bottom of the barrel in terms of what recruiting was these past couple of years. Matt Rule definitely got probably the toughest job out of the coaches that we mentioned. So whenever we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, we'll talk about the Conference USA. We'll preview Conference USA in the season and some of their Power 5 matchups that could potentially turn into upset alerts when we come back here on Mean Green Game Day.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
How's your hair? Is it pretty?
Daddy.
It's pretty.
Maybe I'll say that.
The U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
We are just about 30 minutes from the beginning of the 2017 campaign for North Texas football live over at Apogee Stadium as the North Texas Mean Green prepare for the Lamar Cardinals and FCS matchup. But I do want to talk about the Conference USA slate for the 2017 season. North Texas and really the entire conference kind of going through a little bit of a resurgence. We just talked about Lane Kiffin in the previous matchup where maybe he's trying to turn the tide a little bit in terms of Power 5 versus Middle 5 conferences. And then you look at Conference USA with teams such as Middle Tennessee, La Tech, Western Kentucky starting to make a little bit of wave in the college football landscape. But I do want to talk about all of these Power 5 matchups. There's usually a couple a year where a Middle 5 conference goes off and takes down a Power 5 team. And looking just at the slate right here, I mean, today we see Southern Miss and Kentucky playing each other. We'll predict that game later, but there are a couple different opportunities for Conference USA teams to really make some noise. Which ones stand out the most to you?
Well, I'll go UTSA and Baylor coming up next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think Baylor, Matt Rule, we don't really know what's going to go on there yet. At UTSA, for me, they're my favorite to win the Conference USA this year. They're going to win the West Division. Frank Wilson's done a tremendous job. He probably won't be at UTSA next year. He's probably going to go to another job. But you look at what they have coming back. Dalton Strum's going to be better than he was last year. Mm-hmm. You have the big running back, Jalen Rhodes, who had 1,200 yards last season. For me, going into Baylor, I mean, like we said, we don't really know what's going on there. That could be a possible upset. Watch out for that game.
See, and for me, no matter what Conference USA sport you're talking about, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's even women's soccer, in Conference USA, it seems like there are about 2 to 3 teams that are always at the top of the leaderboard, and then the rest of them are just at this jumble, and then there's 2 or 3 teams that are just awful. So for the football games, I mean, we've got La Tech and WKU every single year. They come out game after game, and they take over this conference. And then so La Tech is playing Mississippi State. I think that'll be a great game to see. WKU at Vandy. That's one that really interests me, and one that I noticed that wasn't on our list, Southern Miss at Tennessee. I think that will actually be a very good matchup just with both how they play, and then having it at Tennessee, and that's November 4th. It's late in the year. If they were to win that game, if they make it to a bowl game, you better watch out because that's going to be some big momentum coming their way.
Yeah, definitely so.
I mean, Southern Miss, not only with Tennessee, but Southern Miss with Kentucky, as you said, we're going to pick later in the broadcast. Both of those are very intriguing. SEC schools that maybe aren't at the top. I know Tennessee's supposed to be, but I mean, how many times last year did they fall to a big upset or get close to a big upset with Appalachian State? But honestly, I mean, I'm from North Texas, so the one that intrigues me the most is North Texas versus Iowa. I mean, that's a Power 5 school. We're going to be on ESPN2. Who knows how good this North Texas team is? I mean, last year we way overachieved. Maybe we overachieve and we go to Iowa and at least give them a run for their money. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to give an upset yet. I haven't seen the team, but you never know. And I would love to see the Mean Green perform well.
And I mean, that's another thing too. We went on the road against Florida last year, a big school. You know, we were playing in the swamp. We kind of got shut out, but we held them. We held them fairly well. And I mean, in the upcoming years, we've got
called cheaters because we hurt one of their players.
Yeah, whatever. But we've got at Arkansas in 2018. We've got a home game against Houston in 2019, which is who UTSA is going to be playing next week, which is a huge game. And then we've got A&M in 2020 and Army both in 2020. And Coach Luttrell's contract goes through 2021. So if we get the ball rolling now on those big schools, talking about closing a gap between those Power 5 schools and the mid 5, that could start to do it if we really keep Luttrell here, keep moving on with those big wins.
Not to mention North Texas and Texas Tech agreeing to a home series where one game, the first one will be in Lubbock, the other one actually going to be a Big 12 school hosted here at Apogee Stadium.
They're going to bring their tortillas and throw them on
That'll be
Apogee.
in 2027.
It'll be a lot of fun for that. One thing that I'm looking for, and it's kind of overshadowed. You said UTSA might be your favorite.
They are my favorite.
They are. Okay, there you go. They are your favorite to win the Conference USA. I think Middle Tennessee is going to be really good. Brent Stockstill at quarterback. I think them going up to Minnesota and taking on the Golden Gophers up there, I think that'll be a close game to watch out for. But Drake mentioned the Iowa game for North Texas. It's looking a little bit ahead. Of course, we'll have the road crew right here talking about that in just a couple of weeks. But that's an intriguing matchup to me as well. I think North Texas, the way that we're going in there with our high-tempo offense, it's a completely different team than the team that went to Iowa 2 years ago with Dan McCarney at the helms. I think Seth Luttrell and this team have that kind of confidence, that kind of mindset. If they can get one of two with the win against Lamar, maybe a win against SMU, and then go on the road to Iowa, I think it'd be a little closer than you think.
Exactly. Well, to go back earlier, the offensive line and defensive line better be good if we're going to go into Iowa and qualify up.
That's very true.
But the other thing, too, is say we do win Lamar, which I'm pretty sure all of us are expecting to win that game. If we were to go on the road and win at SMU, then go on the road and win at Iowa, we could do crazy things this season. And I mean, not saying that it would happen, but if it did, we could really be looking at some momentum coming back into, I mean, then playing UAB at home. You've got some of the easier games at home before you go back on the road. It's a good.
Well, if we do all that, Seth Luttrell won't be here next.
Oh yeah.
It's all the idea of not taking your opponent too seriously, and us being North Texas, like you said, we've gone there before and maybe didn't impress as much, And I'm not saying we're going to make an upset. I don't think any of us are calling for an upset immediately. But if we go up there and at least we prove to Iowa, hey, we're a school to be taken seriously, that's all we're wanting to see, and I think that really can happen.
It definitely could. Now, going from the middle 5 to the Power 5 to the playoff. We only have a couple minutes left here in this block, but I do want to get your playoff predictions. Way too early to start talking about this, but we're going to anyways. Playoff predictions and a Heisman winner. Who wants to start things off?
I'll go first, so you guys can't copy off me. All right, well, first up, Ohio State. Thursday night, I was watching the game, and I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe I should change my pick. Maybe this isn't best. But the defense, to me, the offense will be there. JT Barrett's the leader. Ohio State's easy. And Florida State, you look at what they bring back. Derwin James coming back. You have DeAndre Francois. Florida State for me there. And Cam Akers, really good freshman running back there. All right, then my other two teams, get ready for it.
Oh, gosh.
Washington. They made it last year. That's not a surprise. But watch out for Stanford.
The trees.
Watch out.
2 Pac-12 teams?
Well, okay. Well,
the
Washington.
trees.
Okay, it's like Washington and then maybe Stanford, if not Washington.
So / Stanford.
Because the little rankings, they do the 5 and the 6. So Stanford's one of those 5 and 6
The first
teams.
2 out.
But Washington, Jake Browning, everyone's like, oh, John Ross is gone. Dante Pettis might be better. Had 15 touchdowns last year. My 4th team.
Josh, no matter how much you and the rest of us want to get rid of Alabama, it's not going to happen.
My 4th team.
Alabama will be in the college football playoff.
Auburn.
Oh, War Eagle, baby. You know that's close to my heart.
Jarrett Stidham, they returned 8 on offense, 7 on defense. The running game, Stidham is the quarterback Auburn has been waiting for. Auburn easily.
Okay, well, I'll again go off. Bama's not going to not make it this year. They're on their revenge tour, man. The plate is loaded and they're ready to go. So we've got Bama. I've got Ohio State. Again, I agree with you. It was a little rough on Thursday night. It's going to fall together. I've got USC in there with which would be my Heisman, Sam Darnold, and then I threw in the wild card for OU, rooting for a Big 12.
Wow. Okay.
OSU, Florida State, USC, Bama, Sam Darnold's going to win it. Sorry, no. The other 2 Pac-12 teams you had, USC's going to dominate.
Way to go, right 1 through 4.
Pretty confident there. I'm going to actually go with Josh. I think Auburn's going to sneak up on some people, and I think potentially Jarrett Stidham could be a Heisman winner. He's my little dark horse to win a Heisman. When we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, Josh got a chance to walk around campus and see just how much North Texas students know about their football program. We'll see how much they knew and how little they knew when we come back here on Mean Green Game Day.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Again, Josh?
What? It's game day.
Life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
Life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Listen. All it took was someone who would insist that I just try.
Suddenly, everything was turned around because they judge you.
You tell them, I don't need this.
No one is going to understand.
Unless they've been through it, how can they?
Then one day you realize.
You feel so hopeless.
I need help. I need help.
You feel so hopeless.
Then one day you realize,
Unless they've been through it, how can they understand?
I don't need this.
no one's going to judge you. Suddenly everything was turned around because they insist that I just try.
All it took was someone who would just
Listen.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day as the Lamar Cardinals in the North Texas Mean Green meet for the 7th time in program history and really for the first time since 1986. The series, well, 4-2 in favor of the Mean Green. The last meeting in '86 was a Mean Green victory, 33-13, the final score of that ball game. And welcome back to the desk, you guys. And now, looking at this game, going a little bit more in depth on what we're about to see at Apogee Stadium to open up the season. We've talked about how there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of expectation around this North Texas team, but at the same time, you look at the Lamar Cardinals, they've got a new head coach as well, and a lot of excitement around a specific running back in James White.
Yes, James White, transfer A&M. You know, I mean, if there's one thing North Texas has learned throughout the years, it's not to take FCS schools, you know, seriously. Because I think we all remember 2 years ago at homecoming when Portland State walked in and just dominated us. So, I mean, you have to take these opponents seriously because, yes, they may be in a division lower than us, but this is their big game. This is their chance to prove themselves. You know, they want to come up to Denton, and they don't want to just come up and play us and give us a run for their money. They want to win. So we have to remember James White, obviously, he's got a great running game behind them. We have to take them seriously.
And this is the game we're going to find out more about our defense than we will offense.
Exactly.
Mike Schultz, he's an offensive guy, was an offensive coordinator at TCU for 10 years, coached LaDainian Tomlinson, Andy Dalton. So for me, I mean, that's the thing. And I talked about it earlier. It's the defensive line in this game. You know, how are we going to do against a top-level runner? I mean, James White was at A&M. He's got that D1 talent. It's just, can our defensive line hold up against him?
And I mean, that's the thing is Mike Schultz, he likes to give the ball to the playmaker. That's what he does. And so, I mean, that works hand in hand with Josh saying that, yes, the defense is going to be huge for us this game. It really is. But one, we'll get to see how they do. And two, it'll be a good thing for them to learn how to zone in on that one good player. And honestly, if we can shut him down, who else does Lamar really have?
Here's the interesting thing, though. Talking to the North Texas defense this week, they really don't have a game plan to stop James White. When I asked them who James White was, some of the defensive players said, who's James White? They had no idea. Their plan is they simply are going to stop that 7 yards per carry. They want to drop that down, they said, to 3 yards per carry. They want to hold opponents to under 100 yards rushing, and that starts with Lamar. If you're going to do it, you need to prove it with a team like Lamar in your home stadium. So, I mean, they're really juiced, they're really pumped, and honestly, they don't have a game plan necessarily to stop one guy.
Hopefully they won't know who James White is.
Exactly. They just want to stop the whole offense. So, I mean, I really respect that as far as what they're bringing in this year.
You look at North Texas last year, and they really struggled to pick up really good rushing teams. Yes, we shut down Army up at West Point, but that was about it. Army had 480 yards rushing in the Heart of Dallas Bowl, and then you look at a team like the UTEP Miners, who had 3 wins going into that ball game. Well, they put up around 600 yards rushing.
10 yards per carry.
It was unbelievable how bad North Texas was on defense rushing-wise.
But to be fair, Army literally did not have a receiver. True. They would line up, and they were going, we're going to run the ball, and they just ran it straight down our throats.
And Army does that with everyone. Single team they play.
Year.
So they went in with the mindset.
They beat Navy with it last year. I mean, Army was a great opponent, so I mean, it's hard to judge it off of that. And also, in the Conference USA, there's a lot of pass-happy teams. You know, you look at Middle Tennessee State, you look at Louisiana Tech, they like to pass the ball a lot. So we weren't necessarily used to seeing a lot of running games. Now, we did well against Army at West Point. Now, that was earlier on in the year. That was a weird game. It was raining, lots of turnovers in that game. But, you know, I mean, we hadn't seen really good rushing attacks last year. So the fact that we can just sit here and slam our rushing game, I don't know if that's fair, our rushing defense. But it's definitely going to need to improve from 7 yards per carry. I think we all agree with that.
And then you look at this Lamar team, 3-8 last year. They were 3-6 in the Southland Conference. Completely different team, though, with Mike Schultz and with a running back like James White. But much like North Texas, Lamar trying to patch up that offensive line a little bit and try and figure some things out. This year with North Texas, one advantage, even though they might not have all the question marks settled for the offensive line, they sure do have it in the skill positions. Wide receiving core with a Jalen Guyton, with a Turner Smiley, Rico Bussey, probably one of the strongest receiving cores we've seen in a long time here in Denton. And then look behind and running back. You have Jeffrey Wilson, star running back from last year. Yes, he was sick during the Heart of Dallas Bowl, had some injury troubles kind of later in conference play. But overall, this is a North Texas offense led by Mason Fine that's going to put up some numbers for an offensive coach like Seth Luttrell.
And to say something about Jeffrey Wilson, just the other day when the uniforms came out, I said, hey, Jay Will, what do you think of the uniforms? He said, oh, I'm ready to get them dirty. He was like, I'm not ready to have them clean. So that guy, I'll tell you what, he is ready to go. I mean, him and the whole team is. It's the beginning of the season. Every football team's like, they're pumped up. They're ready to go. But I can promise you from just talking to Jeffrey Wilson on a fairly day-to-day basis, he is zoned in and ready to go. Plus, he knows he's a senior leader.
Well, it's like what Jeffrey said, new number, new player. I mean, in case you haven't noticed, he changed his number. He's coming out. He said the first 3 years, weren't exactly what he wanted. He wants this year to be, the big year, his senior year. He's the leader, and he's got a completely different mindset. That guy's going to lead on offense. But another guy that Luttrell talked about after camp was that Kelvin Smith played tremendous as their wideout. So, like, their trips receiver. He's really, he was a tight end, for his first couple of years. You saw him that tremendous play where he does the flip into the end zone against SMU. This guy had a great camp. He looks like he slimmed down a little bit. Watch out for Smith. Like, the guy's really a stud.
Looking very athletic in practices.
Well, I think Jalen Guyton is a guy we haven't talked about yet. The Notre Dame transfer coming in here. And the key for this offense is Mason Fine, and can he make throws downfield? Because you have to be able to do that. I think a way they can do that is scramble. Mason Fine's got to be able to use his feet. You don't want him taking too many hits, but if he can scramble, you get the safeties creeping in a little bit, then you hit them overhead with Jalen Guyton. That's the key to keeping this offense going. You have to keep the safeties honest because right now they're just going to load the box, and Jeffrey Wilson's not going to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to have a downfield
controlled scrambling, though. Because like you said, we don't want Mason Fine taking big hits.
Yes, definitely. So it was exactly what Josh said earlier in the show. You have Quinn Shanbor behind, but even we don't know what Quinn Shanbor can do outside of a spring game. That's the most action that really Shambor's had so far. I do agree with Jalen Guyton. I think he's going to be a very big impact player for this offense all the way throughout the season. 4-star coming out of Allen, played with Kyler Murray and won a couple state championships with a little school just down the road. But overall, Jalen Guyton, he was an ESPN 300 recruit. That's something that North Texas hasn't seen in a long time, even though it's via the transfer. At the same time, being able to have a guy like that on the outside is going to be huge.
I'll tell you something else that Guyton brings to the table. He brings a boat of confidence, and I can confidently say, I was talking to one of the quality control coaches not too long ago, and he said, the guy likes to boast around. He likes to kind of brag. He'll make the big play and he'll let it be known. But he said he does it in a way that it's not where he's going to get the penalties for over excessive celebration. It's not one of those. He brings a level of confidence that once he makes a big play like that, he's going to bring it back over to those sidelines and make sure that those guys are pumped up enough to go back out there in the defense. That'll help the defense. It'll help the offense. We needed someone with the confidence because sometimes the fans don't have confidence. We don't know if Mason Fine has the confidence. We needed a guy like that, a big playmaker other than Jay Will on the team.
To be fair, Mason Fine has all the confidence in the world right now. You ask the guy, like, if he thought he was going to get the starting job, he always thought he was going to get the starting job. He was playing his butt off, and the dude, like, I can't believe it, but his confidence is skyrocketing.
And another place of confidence for this North Texas team, the secondary. You have Keyshawn McClain, Nate Brooks, Eric Jenkins last year, who led the team in interceptions. He's not even starting. He's not even the starter at cornerback. Now he's going to see a lot of playing time, but at the same time, when you have some guys coming over and starting over guys like Eric Jenkins, who were really good last year, that's really going to be huge coming up this season. You have a Brandon Garner in the middle as well. The defensive secondary is probably one of the stronger points, which last year Josh kind of harped on it here and there, but it's definitely improved from last year to this year.
And the thing is, it got better as the year went along, which is a testament to the defensive coaches that North Texas brought in last year. The secondary was terrible in 2015. That was the biggest thing you saw. Their footwork was bad. Just everything basic was terrible. Well, last year was really good. And especially in this conference, when you have the quarterbacks you have, having that secondary is such a strength to have. Keyshawn McClain, this guy's amazing. He's going to have a huge year.
Oh, yeah. Keyshawn McClain he is another one like Jay Will, who he is a senior. He is ready to have that leadership. He was named preseason all-conference, as well as Nate Brooks, who is a redshirt sophomore or junior. That defensive back, they're ready to take on the challenge of not only playing as well as they did, but they're those leaders now. They have had that season behind them where they had a fantastic season, but they have the leadership that they need, which is something that this team was lacking in previous years prior to Luttrell getting here.
North Texas and Lamar, this is going to be the biggest, I guess, real bookmark on what we're going to see from the defensive side of things. But when we come back here on Mean Green Game Day, we'll predict some of tonight's top matchups in the landscape of college football around the nation when we come back right here on NTTV.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. Why would you do that?
Probably okay isn't okay. Call a cab, a car, or a friend.
Good choice.
As I saw it as a young man, and down through the ages, I continued to write verse. I used that as a creative expression, but it also helped me through life because I could address certain issues, certain feelings, and certain appreciations. I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak, and suddenly I realized I was there where those other people were. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. We are just about ready for Lamar and North Texas Week 1 of the 2017 season. We are just about ready to predict some of the nation's top matchups around the country. And first, we're going to start things off with a little Conference USA SEC action. Kentucky at Southern Miss. The Golden Eagles, of course, a team that actually North Texas was able to take advantage of last year, but at the same time, a close game between these two included a 20-point comeback from Kentucky last year. First off, Drake, who you got?
I'm going to actually have to go with Southern Miss. You're going to keep it in the Conference USA. Big Conference USA fan here, obviously. Go to North Texas. But, you know, Southern Miss, they're always a tough matchup. And especially since this game is going to be at Southern Miss, you know, home field advantage comes into play. Kentucky's not the strongest of SEC teams. And I really think Southern Miss, you know, first game of the year, that's when upsets tend to happen. So if it's going to happen, it'll happen here.
Couldn't disagree more. Kentucky's going to win. Kentucky brings 8 offensive starters, 9 defensive starters back last year. Yeah, they lost at the beginning of the year to Southern Miss, but they got better as the year went along. Don't forget, they beat Louisville in their last game. You were the biggest Lamar Jackson fan out there at the beginning of the year. They went into Louisville and beat Louisville. Keon Howard at Southern Miss, I don't trust him enough. Kentucky wins big.
You know me, I always go for the Conference USA teams, but I couldn't do it this time. I had to go with Kentucky. Kentucky's a little bit better than people give them credit for. I mean, they're second or third in that, they're like in the East and the SEC. So I think that they are used to playing in those gigantic SEC team stadiums. They've got all the noise. You're going to go over to Southern Miss. I don't know if you've ever seen the campus. It's not that big. It's right in the middle of Southern Mississippi. So,
but will it be loud?
Maybe, but I still think there's no way that Kentucky can't
their
win.
Opinion depending on how loud it is. You never know. I mean, it's college football. It's the first game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Crazier things happen. And just because you have starters doesn't mean everything. I'm just going to throw that out there.
And I'm going to even things up. I'm going with Southern Miss as well.
Exactly.
Right side of the table, left side of the table.
The better side.
So I don't know about that one. So let's move on now. West Virginia, Virginia Tech. The rivalry now continues. An older rivalry now rekindled this weekend. I have the Mountaineers going to Virginia Tech and coming out with a victory. Drake, who you got?
Well, I'm going to have to actually disagree this time, Kyle, just because Virginia Tech's going to be at home. And, you know, I'm a big fan of, like, home field advantage, especially in these first couple of games when people are trying to figure out their offenses and how they're going to attack the defense. You know, it's nice to have home field advantage on your side. I think Virginia Tech's going to come out with a win.
He's going to go 0-2 so far in his picks this week. West Virginia's going to win this game. Gerard Evans is gone for Virginia Tech. They struggle so much without a quarterback for 2012 through 2015. Not having a quarterback for West Virginia, Will Greer, I think he's going to have a great game. West Virginia wins.
See, okay, and then I'm going to go with whoever chose Virginia Tech. That's what I'm going with on this one. Virginia Tech, I mean, they're both starting off with new quarterbacks for their program. Virginia Tech has Josh Jackson, who is making his college debut, but I think could have a little something special behind him. And then, like you said with Will Geyer, I don't know about him. First off, he was suspended for the performance taking of drugs. He missed a whole year, and now he's down at West Virginia. Totally different style of play from what he was playing at Florida. I don't see him having as big of a success. And when he did start at Florida, he was 6-0, which is great. But his stat record in and of itself at Florida, not that impressive.
You could argue going to West Virginia can help you offensively. It might be a better offensive system than what Florida's running.
Yeah, it definitely could be. This matchup really one of the more intriguing matchups, I think, because of the ACC Big 12 type of rivalry.
They're ranked 21 and 22.
They're
also.
right next to each other in the rankings. There's a lot of intrigue around this game. Not as much hype, but there is a lot of intrigue. So going to a place where there's always a lot of eyes on some schools. Let's go to Tinseltown. UCLA hosting Texas A&M, and the Aggies going on the road to start things off, and a quality opponent, quality quarterback as well. I have UCLA pulling out a victory over Texas A&M. Kevin Sumlin, like we talked about earlier, potentially on the hot seat if he doesn't have as much success at Texas A&M this year. Who you got, UCLA or A&M?
Someone's got to win this game, and he's not going to. UCLA is going to win the game. I think the guy has lost confidence. It kind of feels a little bit like the whole LSU thing there towards the end with Les Miles. People want him gone. He can hear it in his ear. Even Charlie Strong. It's that same thing. When you hear it in your ear, when you see it, and the players start losing hope and they start losing the confidence behind the coach, I feel like that's going on with A&M right now. And UCLA is doing really good things with Jim Mora right now. I think UCLA wins this game.
0-3 so far.
Oh. Josh, if I go 3-0, you're going to really regret saying that.
Now, UCLA has Josh the Bro Rosen, as he's called, in some parts of UCLA. He had a hot tub in his little dorm room.
We thought about doing that with your room as well, right?
We should have taken some notes. Texas A&M's going to win this game. Josh Rosen, we saw the off-season comments about football. Maybe he's thinking about other things. I think Josh Rosen is an excellent quarterback, but I think that desperateness of Kevin Sumlin and this staff, they're coaching their butts off right now. They know they have to win. While Jim Moore's got all the time in the world pretty much at UCLA. I think Nick Starkel's going to be better than people think at A&M. A&M finally has a good quarterback. They don't have to play Hubenek all season again. I think Texas A&M goes into the Rose Bowl and wins. And hey, A&M, you finally made it to the Rose Bowl. Good job, guys.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with this. Okay. And then we'll go, first off, I never pick A&M ever just because, I don't like them. Second off, I actually have a reason this time not to pick them, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm going to go UCLA wins this easy. I think that, first off, it's at UCLA. It makes a huge difference. A&M has that brand new quarterback, whatever. He doesn't know the system as well, who knows. But Sumlin has got to be out. Like I said earlier, if he doesn't get 10 wins this season, he is out. And there's a difference between knowing last year that he still had a chance to prove himself and knowing this year that if things start off bad, like this UCLA game, this season's done for him, which I love. So go UCLA.
The biggest thing out of this entire pick is that the biggest Texas fan at the desk picks A&M to win. So
I'm a Kevin
just
Sumlin
saying
fan.
That.
How can he has made their program better than it was before him. You can have higher expectations now. Kevin Sumlin should be safe though.
Okay. Moving on to probably the biggest game of the entire weekend, probably one of the biggest opening week games of all time. Florida State and the Alabama Crimson Tide meeting at the brand new what was it called? Mercedes-Benz Stadium,
Mercedes-Benz
home of the
Stadium,
new Atlanta Falcons and their gigantic.
Looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, just gigantic monstrosity of a stadium. It's actually gorgeous, and I'm very jealous. But who do you think pulls out this monumental matchup of some of the heavyweights in college football? Florida State, Jimbo Fisher, former assistant under Nick Saban, and Nick Saban 10-0 against former assistants that he's played against as a coach this season. I have Alabama pulling it out. I still have Florida State going to the playoff, though.
I have Florida State and Bama both going to the playoffs. This will be a very close game. It's almost too close to call. I think whoever loses the game, it'll probably be their one loss on the season. But it's just that factor that you mentioned. Nick Saban. That's all you need. Nick Saban. Bama wins, but I hope it's close. I think it'll be close, and it's a great game.
I don't think it'll be close.
Are we going 4-0 here?
I don't think it'll be close because Florida State is going to blow out Alabama.
Wow.
You're killing me.
Maybe not blow out, but Florida State's going to win this game.
You're going to go 0-4, and I'm going to go 4-0, and we're going to play this tape for the rest of your life.
Derwin James is the X factor here. Jalen Hurts was only 54% on downfield passes last year.
As a freshman.
He's not going to be able to throw the ball downfield here. But you lose Lane Kiffin, he's a quarterback
He was
whisperer.
butting heads with Lane Kiffin.
I think.
He was doing worse with Lane Kiffin. Did you see him in the national championship? The guy almost brought him back.
This looks like a Saban Lane Kiffin type of relationship,
I think having a new offensive coordinator is going to be tough for Alabama, tougher than people think. I think, the stat against former assistants is great, but this Florida State team is so talented. DeAndre Francois, Cam Akers, the running back, and Derwin James on defense. He's going to have 2 pick sixes. You know
Dalvin Cook left, right? You know Dalvin Cook's gone.
Wait, really? Maybe Alabama. No, Florida State wins. Close.
Okay.
Who do I want to win? Florida State. Obviously, I think everyone does. Everyone roots against Bama unless you're a Bama fan. Bama's going to win this one, Josh.
I'll be calling you guys tonight at 11.
Okay.
First off, Bama is on their revenge tour right now. They didn't end up how they wanted to last season. Nick Saban doesn't put up with that, man. Nope. And so they're going to come out. And fun fact, since Josh is usually the one on the home crew that sends out the fun fact, I think we need to switch it around this year. Alabama has not played a non-conference game at an away non-conference game, not at a neutral field, since 2011. They play all their non-conference games since 2011. If it's supposed to be an away game, they make it at a neutral field because they know those Bama fans travel well and they don't have to deal with home crowd issues. So, I mean, if we're talking about home field advantage, yeah, that takes away part of the success. Probably not, but it might add a little something in there.
Definitely. So it's one of the best matchups that an opening week has ever seen, number 1 versus number 3. So let's move on to the matchup for tonight, Lamar and North Texas. I'm going to make it quick. I've got the Mean Green pulling out a win against Lamar. I don't think it'll be close. I think North Texas comes out, their offense really impresses. I think we're going to put up more than 40 points tonight, and I think the defense impresses as well.
It shouldn't be close. North Texas is going to win this game, and it shouldn't be close.
Hey, we finally agree on one?
No, maybe not. I have to pass.
I'm going to take North Texas here. I think it's close at first because of James White. I think causes some issues for our defense. But I think once we figure out how to contain him, we'll get a couple turnovers. North Texas wins comfortably.
And one other thing I'm going to bring over from the away crew is I'm going to give a big old caw out there because I'm going Mean Green all the way. There's no reason as to why this game should be close unless Lamar has an unbelievable game and North Texas just decides to lay down.
Yeah.
So Mean Green all the way.
The one wild factor would probably be James White, like Josh mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be as much of an impact that maybe Lamar thinks. It's also because of the Hurricane Harvey situation down in the South. They haven't had as much practice. They haven't had as much real, I guess, preparation going into this week. That's going to put them at a disadvantage.
Our thoughts and prayers are with
them.
Exactly,
of course.
everyone.
Of course, with the Hurricane Harvey situation, all of our thoughts and prayers in South Texas. But that's going to do it for week 1 of Mean Green Game Day. North Texas, Lamar coming up in just a little bit, but be sure to tune in next week as we lead you up with the road crew coming in and getting you ready for SMU North Texas. The rivalry is back for week 2 as the Mean Green travel down to Dallas and take on the Ponies just down the road. But for everybody involved in this Mean Green Game Day broadcast, for our director, Quinn Arrington, for Joe Lawson, Josh Conrad, Ashley Pickle, I'm Kyle Jonas. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
I rescued Toast from a shelter in 2011. I love Toast because she's a lazy diva. Toast makes me laugh. When I walked into the shelter, I knew she was special.